Hey everyone, and welcome to 3 for 30, a surfcraft review where I will be reviewing 3 boards for 30 days. Ideally, we all want the perfect 3-board quiver that will work for any conditions our coastline provides. So in each episode, I'll be reviewing just that, a small board, mid board, and a long or big board. At the end, each board will be numerically rated using 6 different categories, which will give an overall score. Thanks for tuning in and enjoy the show. What's going on, guys? 3 for 30 episode, Surfcraft Union. My name's Dave. I'll be your host for this. So this particular episode is kind of cool because I'm revisiting a shaper that I used to get a lot of boards from at a time. I am trying a board from a shaper that's been around since practically the beginning, and I'm trying a board from a shaper that kind of changed performance surfing. You can also see that I kind of changed it up a little bit as far as what I'm going to be talking about in the beginning. So if you see there's a couple little dots, and I'll point these out later too. And what it's doing is it's telling me where the rocker starts and also the wide point. I had a lot of you asking me about these things, so I decided to just kind of nip it in the butt and let's just talk about it. So, first is a small board. This is called the albumtwinsman. It's kind of a mashup of a short board, but also fish. It does have a fish outline, and as you can see, it is wide point forward, about an inch from the actual middle of the board. But what it does feature is this cool dome deck that takes all of the volume, and even in the strainer, which is centered, it goes all the way out through here to here, and it's the same width. So a lot of volume, and then it tapers to this hard rail, which then goes into a hard edge in the tail. So real quick, let's just talk about rocker itself on this particular board. So the rocker actually for the nose starts around here, and it is 4.5. The tail rocker starts right here, and it is 2.25. So really, what's only sitting in the water, if this board was just laying in the water, is really that much area. So the wide point is right here, all right? As far as nose and tail width, they're both 14.75, believe it or not. This board is 6.0 by 20.5 by 2. Really cool board. Some kind of different. It's got a nice little single to a spiral V to a little bit of V out the tail. I'm going to be trying 2 different fins with this. The first set, I'm going to be trying these hydrophile upright keels, all right? They do have a little bit of flex to them, so that should be kind of fun and kind of make this board feel super duper lively. But if I do feel that maybe it's flexing out or I'm having a hard time holding, I'm going to try these Panda sides. It is part of the Twin plus stabilizer set that I rode on the Glazer in the last episode. So yeah, I'll give this one a try if I need a little bit more hold. But I think the first thing I'm going to do is get rid of this track pad. This board is so flat, I really want to see how it feels with my foot here without this arch pad right here. And I have no reason to have anything like this. So this is the small board, and I'm going to show you the mid board next. So for the mid, I have a Campbellbrothers speedegg. Stoked on this one. I've been looking for actually something like this for a while. I've had a couple Campbellbrothers sponsors before. I've had a couple 3 fins. I've had a couple 5 fins. This particular one is a 5 fin. But this speedegg in this size, which is 6'8", I've been told is amazing. So let me tell you a little bit about it. First, before we talk about the board, I want to talk about the relevance of the Campbellbrothers. So when twin fins were the sensation, Campbellbrothers came up with a different way to increase speed, but also have hold. And what they did was they created this fin system. And what that fin system does is instead of holding onto water, it releases it. It releases it just like you would want a rail to, especially in a fast wave. They do ride great. They have the hold of a single, but I feel like they have the speed of a twin. So, psyched on this, and this one actually is a little different than anything that I've ever had or seen because it has this little bump, just like the album does, has this little bump, and actually it's kind of cool because it's got this little just little channel going out the back that's right along. But let's talk about, so this is still an egg, right? So with that said, it's got those eggy rails, they're friendly, they're easy to surf. When we talk about nose width, it's 16. Tail width is 13, which is actually interesting because the tail width starts at 12 inches back, which is right where this wing goes. So this is probably about there to there, probably about 2 inches wider than this. This particular board, 6'1" by 21 by 2 5/8. The wide point is 2 inches above center. So here's the wide point right there. The nose rocker is starting here, and it's going to 4 inches. And the tail rocker is starting here, and it's actually going to 2.75. So from here to here, that's actually a good amount of area that's in the water. I don't know about this wax job. I might have to switch that out. I've never ridden this. I've been kind of sleeping on this board I've had it for about 3 months, just waiting for the hurricane season to start coming. And the Atlantic is doing its thing right now. So I'm gonna get some wax off of this, re-wax it, actually see what kind of dings might be underneath this thing, and hopefully take it out tomorrow. So next board is the Longboard. All right, so last but certainly not least, the Longboard. So I've just been having this relationship with longboards for so long. They're what I get really excited about, and I love the way a real turn feels. I love the way trim feels. But I haven't had that lift of a nose ride yet. And that's something that I've been kind of on the search for since I started. But I don't know if I was like on the right equipment or whatever. So with that said, I had a few people on Instagram that were cool enough to talk to me about what they like and what they ride. And this has been what they've been kind of obsessed with. This is a Continental. It's a 9.6. It's 23.5 wide, and it's 3.06 in thickness. And actually, when you look at these long, parallel, very wide outlines, they would normally kind of make me nervous, but they're not that thick at the rail. This is kind of cool, and it's something that I really enjoy about some longboards. The Takayama had these thicker rails, where this one is a little bit more, I don't want to call it pinched, but it's definitely a little bit more foiled. So wide point is right around here, which is definitely above center, but there's so much of a parallel rail that I don't know where it kind of like starts and stops. And I think I don't really care. Tail rocker is starting right here and is going all the way to a good little flip in the tail rocker, 4.25. And it really does that little flip at the very end, which makes it as like a cool pivot point. Nose rocker starting right around here, and it's going to 3.25. So not crazy nose rocker. I've definitely seen more in other boards by Bing, and this one just seems pretty cool. Generous amount of concave that is going all the way to the middle. I'm hoping to be able to really just set up with this board and hopefully do some perching and know what that real, that lift feels like. Again, I've kind of experienced it, but not crazy. Sorry, I gotta get the fin. I'm running a pretty decent sized fin. This is a 10.25 Tyler Warren pivot fin. This is the only fin that I would really want to ride in it. I've had people tell me that they ride like super big, wide nose rider style fins, but I also want to be able to turn it a little bit. So this will be the fin that I'll be running. I'll be running it pretty much, actually, it maxes out in the box itself. It's got this little roll in the tail too that I'm hoping is going to kind of help with pivot points on the wave, but also not take away from the ability of running up to the nose. This board has a 19.5 inch wide nose and a 16.5 wide tail, and it has concave that the nose concave is running 1/3 of the board, so pretty good amount. So yeah, I'm gonna surf this board and we'll catch up with you soon. Thanks for sticking around. I am here with Brandon. He is helping me with the small board category. I have ridden this board and then realized that maybe it's better to have someone like himself do it instead of me. He's a local guy, known him for over a decade, and he surfs really well. He surfs with great style, and that's what I'm interested in. So first off, varial foam. What do you think of it?
Yeah, the varial foam, I was super excited to get on. I like messing around with the epoxy as of late, and I've never been on varial, never had the chance to try it out, and I really liked it. It's EPS, and yeah, EPS, super alive. It's when the conditions offer it up. Light winds, even glassy. Varial foam just wants to go. You can turn it, twist it, whatever you want to do, pop it, pull it. It'll do it.
Cool. So you mentioned light winds. What about in your face, like offshore, kind of a little more hectic? How did it work with that?
Yeah. I felt a little bit chattery.
Okay.
Obviously, with a lot of people who don't know too much about EPS or varial, it's not really good for heavy winds in your face. Wind gets under you and you're just, you're floating.
Cool.
So,
yeah, sounds about right. So let's get into categories. We start with maneuver. What'd you think?
Maneuverability, I ranked it at a 6.5. It's a twin. It's going to move. It's going to go. And so with the hydrophiles we started off with first, it moved, it twisted. They're super flexy. So whenever you wanted to turn, it turned. Whenever you wanted to go, just give it a pump and it went.
Cool.
And then for the second sesh, we switched over to the Christensen's. It's got the wider base. And with the wider base, you're going to have less maneuverability, but more flow, with a wider base, you're more oriented going down the line.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're at 6.5 with both of them.
Cool. With going from fins talk, what about drive?
Drive, I gave it a 7. Twin fins, you automatically think loosefulness, playfulness, but 20s are great down the line. Tons of drive, and so I gave it a 7.
Cool. We discussed it a little bit beforehand, but this is a pintail. They also make this as a fishtail.
Mm-hmm.
If you were to get this board, what would the ideal dimensions be?
So this board's a 6.0, and normally that's like my step up range.
Mm-hmm.
So I would normally probably ride this around, 5.3, 5.2, maybe even a 5.1 if I'm feeling spry.
Sure.
But 5.3 would be the range.
Cool. So next category, flow.
Flow.
Yep.
Yeah, this board had flow. The session we had was, in hard offshore, kind of bumpy, but when I got an open face, this board just, it had the flow that a twin fin would have, that you would think of.
Okay.
And so I gave flow a 7.
Sick. Volume distribution / duck dive.
I gave that an 8 because the volume's there,
Yep.
It's hitting right in the middle, right in the sweet spot when you're paddling. And some people struggle with finding their volume and, trying to find that spot where they can duck dive. I really didn't have an issue with this board, even though it was bigger than I would ride.
Yeah, this is a 35-liter board.
Yeah.
So this is way bigger than what you're used to riding.
Very.
So you were still able to duck dive it.
Yeah, no problem. And I think that's in part with the varial, because it was so light, even it would pop right back out of the water, you could still get it in there.
Cool.
And
Good. So that goes into paddling.
Paddling. One thing I kept saying to myself is, this thing paddles like a dream, and I probably said it about 10 times.
Yep.
So with that being said, I give it a 10.
Which is like
crazy.
Yeah, and
I can't wait to get you on some like big stuff.
So I gave it a 10
Yeah.
because, you know, I like to scratch in the waves. You know, like I said, I would ride this in a 5.3. Probably wouldn't have that much paddling, but this thing just paddled with no problem.
Mm-hmm.
Could get into whatever wave I wanted, and yeah, I mean, who doesn't want that? So paddling's a 10.
Sick. That's so interesting because for me, I would give paddling, and this is just this is the whole thing. So for him, he thinks of this as a mid-length, and I think of this as a shortboard.
Right.
Because that's what I ride. I ride bigger stuff. You ride much smaller stuff, smaller volume. I ride much bigger volume.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to see the two different dynamics because I would give this thing like a 7.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it paddles great, but it is, and I liked where they put all the volume.
Right.
But yeah, I'm old. Anyway, so special moments, what were they? And what did you rate that as?
Special moments. If I had to rate it, it'd probably be, you know, probably around the 7 range, but, you know, I don't want to rate it because, you know, special moment is a special moment. Sometimes it just happens when you don't think of it. And it was actually off camera, and I got into a wave, you know, without even pumping, just letting the board do its thing. End section in front of me, went to do a floater, and just like I said before, I, you know, just let the board do its thing. Came off the top, down to the bottom, clean as can be. Rode out, wasn't even wearing a leash, and yeah, it just so happened to be off camera because I actually lost the tracker first wave.
It's okay, it happens.
But yeah, yeah, it was a special moment because it was almost like that last hoorah, you know, like, let's see what this board can do, and I just let it do what it wanted to do instead of trying to force something. So
Totally.
Yeah, felt good.
Cool. That's awesome. Well, thank you. I got something else for you on the way. Yeah, onto the mid-length. All right, so now onto the mid category. So for this Campbellbrothers bonder, something that I kind of wanted to mention that I didn't mention in the beginning is that the fins work with the bottom contour. The bottom contour is what makes this thing so drivey and so fast, and the fins just help project the water. So I just wanted to kind of let you guys know that it's a lot more than just the fins. There's a lot going on in the whole bottom section of this board. So that kind of goes into maneuverability. For this particular board, I gave it a 7.5. Bonder's made for speed and actually used by a lot of people as barrel boards. So as for maneuverability, there were a few times where it was fluid and a few times where it felt a little bulky and just kind of like boggy at times. I felt the fluidness backside more than front side, believe it or not. Doing backside bottom turns, I never felt it catch and it hold a lot of control and a lot of speed. Direction changes are absolutely obtainable, but there are other boards for that. There are other boards that I would suggest if you're more into doing more turns. This board kind of wants to go, but will direction change, if you kind of know what I'm saying. The tail does wash out a little bit. I did a floater, and I felt the tail almost like where I went up for the floater, and the tail almost like stayed up and didn't want to catch back down. So I thought that was kind of interesting, and I think it's just because there's not really a whole lot holding this tail in the water because there's so much water being released all the time. All right, so next is trim. I gave it a 7.5. When looking at the overall outline, it's actually not that many liters. So I was surprised at how well it moved through the water at flat spots. This boards need to be surfed in the pocket. It will help it move faster through the water. So don't expect to glide out and be able to outrun the wave, or don't expect to glide out too far in front of it and then be able to do a cutback. You're gonna lose your speed and you're probably just gonna be washed off the back. Connecting sections is something it will do. You just need to work a bit for it though, all right? Drive, gave it a 9. The Bonzer's all about drive. It's exactly what it was designed for. So you can get a mid-volume board with more drive and others. The only difference is when you get a mid, usually your volume is going to be higher. So this board is almost, although it is 21 inches wide, it does feel a lot smaller than that. It feels almost shortboardy to me, but a lot of fun at the same time. Volume distribution / duck dive, I gave it an 8. Malcolm Campbell, the shaper of Campbellbrothers boards, is an expert at hiding foam. He really knows exactly where to put it and where not to, where it's not needed, which is kind of cool about his boards. They're just well known for that. Again, when looking at the outline, it's not bulky, but it still sits well in the water. But if you need to duck dive it, you can. I know we kind of spoke about it in the last episode about the Machado Glazer, where it had this bigger outline here and then a smaller tail, and this kind of has the same thing. Since it has so less volume in the tail, it makes it a little easier to duck dive, all right? So I definitely dug it in that aspect. The board is meant to only really be surfed in the lower half, all right? I found that trying to do like the little trendy cheater 5s that's going on, which I'm a big part of as well, I found that it just doesn't really work that well. And it could be because this is a speedegg and because it has a little bit of a maybe not as wide outline as a regular egg by Campbellbrothers. Paddling, I gave it an 8. Paddles very well, moves through the water very well. Paddles into waves amazing, especially for the actual size of it. And also if you're taking off a little late on the section, which is kind of nice, especially, you know, we kind of spoke about this being more of a barrel hunter, which to be able to paddle into a wave in a critical section, it's nice to have that extra little kick to get you in there, especially if you're literally paddling into a wave that's about to barrel right on top of you. Unfortunately, that never happened for me on this, but I could see where it would happen. Just remember, it's still an egg. So it has egg-like feel, just a little faster and a little less maneuverability, all right? Special moments, I gave it a 7.5. The way that I've been frequently lately is a better left than a right. So it's nice to confidently surf a board like this in a bigger left and feel comfortable. The drive that I felt on this board backside was awesome, especially in bottom turns where it would just, you know, there would be no little spots where I felt that it was kind of like slowing down, or even where it was catching suddenly and just jacking you up. So I like it that it surfs backside well, and it's a little bit of a longer length board. Unfortunately, the special moment that I had with this board, I had a camera issue, and the special moment was only shared with myself and a few of the nudists that were on the beach that day. If you know, you know. And it was a long ride, and it just kept going and going and going and going. And it was definitely cool to be able to surf this thing and just be doing, you know, just kind of like up and down, just keeping up with the wave. And it was a long wall. It's a great wave, and this board definitely performed amazing in it. So yeah, that is my special moment for this board. This is the mid. Up next is the longboard. All right, now for the longboard. So let's go to categories. First off, before we even go to categories, I just want to share that this board was a real treat. It was a lot of fun. Had a blast, did some stuff that I've never done before. We're gonna get into it. Let's go to the scorecard. Noseride, I gave it a 9. That's the highest that I've ever given. This is the closest that I've ever nose rode. Like real nice nose riding, like what you see, you know, all the guys like Scotty Stopnick and definitely don't want to compare myself to Tudor or anything like that, but I felt the lift. And that was the most important thing. So the combination of the concave, nose rocker, tail rocker, and the width of the nose and tail create amazing lift. Even at times lift where I didn't even think it would be possible, where I was had 1 foot here and 1 foot here, and I'm still going through foamy sections and just holding on. And I've never had anything like that. Definitely cool. It's a great confidence booster for getting used to nose riding. Again, this is probably the best I've ever done the art of nose riding in my life. And I feel super confident going into other boards now that I know kind of where and when a little bit better. So maybe this isn't a great beginner board for someone that is just getting into longboarding itself, but this is a great board for someone that just wants to learn how to nose ride and feel comfortable at it, because it is a whole nother thing. So yeah, definitely works better in a pocket wave, as all surfboards do. But it will, you know, when you're kind of a little too far up and a little past the wave, you can still have a little bit of time. But this is the coolest part about it, is that I was able to still be up here and actually get the board to turn while I was on the nose and go back into the actual wave itself, which was kind of sweet. Again, super stoked on that. But, you know, as all boards, usually when they nose ride well, they might not turn well. So next category is maneuverability. I gave it a 7.5. Honestly, the width of the board would make me think otherwise. Usually parallel logs just kind of make me think of something that will not turn, but it actually turns pretty well for its size. The kick in the tail and the roll that is right at the end of the tail. So there's this kick here and a roll, and it really creates a great pivot point for when you want to do that type of turn, a real pivot turn or a drop knee turn. But you can also kind of find a little area of where you could just kind of just roll onto your toes and feel this board just start to roll over and turn as well, which is kind of cool. So in other words, instead of just being able to turn from back here, it actually can turn from here too, which is refreshing, because again, when I think of a traditional nose rider, I think of a honker. I think it's something that doesn't turn, but in reality, this thing does. And it definitely has a lot to do with what Mick Rogers and Matt came up with, and I think it works. You know, the turn down rail and then the turned up rail definitely helps to make this, I don't want to say pinched rail, but it is more foiled than most boards that I've seen in this style. which definitely helped it maneuver as well. So going on to the next category, trim, even 8.5. It does not stop moving. Almost glider-ish, but you can walk around. Very stable. Very stable at most parts of it. Makes surfing a wave from start to end much more achievable in conditions that it would even be hard on a glider, which says a lot. So there's definitely parts of the wave that are just kind of like slow, and you start to feel yourself just kind of stop working, and then all of a sudden this board just kind of catches up with it and just finds some type of energy from the wave and takes it and makes you go past it. It's kind of sweet. Volume distribution, I gave an 8.5. The outline made me think of bulky and clunky, but they really kind of nailed it on this one. Again, when you see it, it's very, very wide, paralleled, wide throughout the tail, wide throughout the nose, 19.5 in the nose, and a wide tail as well. Started feeling so comfortable on the front half that I started doing what I call like a double tap, which is where I would kind of like cross step up to the nose and then walk back when I felt it wasn't necessary, and then go right back up. So I was almost just in this area alone, which is something cool. I've never done that before, and it felt very comfortable. Great for practicing switch, which is surprising. Getting up switch, it's just so much board, but it's also very maneuverable. So it kind of allows you to make those little tweaks with your heels and toes to kind of get the board to where you need to be in the wave. Great board for just messing around on all parts. So the volume distribution is definitely a full-on thumbs up. Paddling, I gave it an 8. Paddled awesome for the amount of nose width and concave. Keep in mind when paddling something like this, it's usually a little tough because you're paddling so much area that any type of element is kind of working against you. So in other words, what I'm saying is when you're paddling a board that's like this and super wide, you're just pushing water and you're just pushing air and all that stuff. And air is just getting sucked, but then it has nowhere to go because of the concave. So I know I've said it before, but it's just something to kind of think about. Let's see, where are we at? All right. So special moments, 9.5. All right. All around, this is a very high-rated high-rated board for me because I just had such a good time. I think what they did was amazing. So for longboarding, as my ability and confidence, it's usually on the back half of the board. It's usually never on this. If you know me and you surf with me, you know that I don't really go up for nose rides unless I'm really, really trying to. And the confidence that I gained from this, let me try some new stuff. I've been working on hang heels. I can't say that I've gotten one 100%, but I'm pretty damn close. And it feels good to do something that I remember watching like the old Captain Finn movies and watching like JJ and all those dudes doing the hang heels forever and just doing it so amazingly. So with that said, my progression with the Continental has been pretty much life-changing as far as the nose work that I can do now. And for that same reason, this board gets an overall 8.5. All right, guys. Hope you enjoyed this month's episode. It was a lot of fun doing it. It was a lot of fun bringing Brandon onto the whole platform. He surfs really good, and he has amazing feedback. he's really good at what he does. So really psyched to have him. But this is the end of the episode, which means that this is the part of the little knick-knack. This is more of a fitness knick-knack. This is the Revolution balance boards. And what it is just a regular, pretty much basic balance board, except you can kind of move it around. So you can move it to go toe side, heel side, or you can just do your regular Indo style. It's got a nice little soft cushion on top. I think these things are really necessary. And the reason why is I think it's super important, especially if you're down to do a dawn patrol session, to kind of get your body awake. And one great way to do it is to kind of get your balance points moving, get your legs going, get all the little muscles in your feet going. That's important. You got to warm those things up. And this is a great product to do so. The other thing that I like about it is that you can see the roller is not huge. So believe it or not, it's actually harder to do it with this roller than an Indo board, but you are also lower to the ground, so it's not as sketchy and terrifying to do. I don't know. I think it's really important to put a little bit of focus into your body and your health, especially if you're getting a little older, and even to you young groms. The earlier you start on a fitness routine, the better it is for your whole longevity. Anyway, enough of me acting like I actually know what I'm talking about, fitness stuff. I will be having a board swap at Whitechapel Projects in Long Branch on the 24th of October. It's in part of the Asbury Park Bazaar. It will be from 12:30 to 4. It will be outside in the courtyard. Very limited space, so please, it's first come, first serve. I'll be there all day. If you want to chat, I'll also have a bunch of product for sale too. I will be also showing a short little film that me and a couple buddies put together at 4:30. It might be inside, just to kind of get you guys aware. It might be inside, it might be outside. We're kind of weather permitting on that whole situation. So that's it. And as I always say, stay safe, be friendly, surf soon. All right, thank you.